Oh, hello there, welcome to a new review from StrategyJoe. As you can see today, we got something a little bit different because I got my camera out, I got some good lighting for once, and I decided to do a little face cam, so I had to brush my hair and shit like that, which I usually don't do. So I don't know how it comes out, let me know. But today we got something very special to review. We have Grand Ages Rome. Grand Ages Rome was also known as Imperium Civitas 3 outside of North America. Actually makes me wonder if maybe the developer believed that the North American could not grasp Latin. That will make sense, but when you look after the name they decide to take, Grand Ages Rome, what I don't understand is that it has nothing to do with the other Grand Ages game, notably Medieval. So if you played Medieval but not Rome, you're in for a surprise. It is really different. Grand Ages Rome is a city builder from 2009. As the title says, it is set into antique Rome, and we take the role of a patrician family sent all over the expanded empire to build and colonize everything we can. While it is a city builder, we are centuries away from SimCities or City Skylines, and we're more into the vein of the classics like Caesar Tree and Child of the Nile, but with an important distinction in the mechanism. When we first start the game, we have to pick a family name out of a list of 5 famous families, and then we have to pick an avatar that will be sticking with us and will be our representation into the game. And it seems like the development team had a strong influence from the HBO series Rome, as you can say from these. It's not a problem with me actually. I could stare at Octavia for hours on end. Yeah, okay, let's move on. As mentioned, we start in front of an expanded empire and we have to start building some colonies all over the place. The game offers a fun mechanic where the character we pick has estates and certain technology that sticks and follow them throughout the game. So every time you start a new mission, you do get some bonus that you can pre-select before the game. For example, you can have an estate for wood, an estate for slaves, or you can get some technologies like free buildings or first 5 buildings built for free and rapidly. That is quite interesting. It offers a new variation to the start of the game because it does get bland eventually. And it gets bland because every single mission starts the same. You got a small outpost with some plots of land far off in the distance for the farmings, for the pigs and wheat. And you also have an aqueduct on the other side from where you can fetch your water. But it is always the same mechanism. You have to put down some basic infrastructure to support a strong, growing city. But the building system is unequivocally interesting. You can set down buildings by the right mouse click. You hold down the right mouse, you move over all the quadrilaters, and you can select a wide range of building. And quite honestly, I haven't seen a fun system like that just to pick your building. And although you're kind of lost at first, you eventually get your bearings straight and you know exactly where to home in to build that or build the other things you want. And that is really interesting system, I must say. At first we need to expand some insulas for the plebeians, and then we can start building more eloquent housings for our esquif and patricians, so they will be able to work more complex and involving jobs. These people These three classes of people will constitute the strength core of the labor that we'll need in the game, as each production, manufacture, entertainment, or religious building will need their own type of worker. And there is also a range area where you have to set your settlements, your worker have to be within the working building. This does allow us in a certain way to build very strict residential districts, while you have more industrial districts and more militaristic districts nearby. You have to make sure to intertwine all these districts together. That gives an interesting strategic approach at laying down the city. While the plebeians are accommodated by simple food source, the higher classes need a more varied food source and also need entertainment and religious access. It makes for an interesting mix when you are building up your bubbling city and you need to make sure that everything you put down has a connection with the rest of the planning. There's also a certain criteria when laying down a new building that will grant you an happiness type of popularity. And basically what happens is when you build a basic insula, if you build another one next to it, you'll get more popular. If you build a wood camp lumberjack station, if you put it in the middle of the wood, you'll get really popular. If you don't gain the popularity, but the popularity is an important commodity that you will pile up. When you get high popularity, you'll be able to levy taxes or seize a church or temple amendments, where they stack up everybody's money and you're free to seize at the cost of certain popularity. But still, the main key in building and Grand Ages Rome is the area of effect. Each building has its own area of effect, and you'll need to learn exactly how it arranges with each order. While some building needs their primary resources within the area of their own reach, some other buildings do not need the access and only offers the outreach to be able to distribute what they're producing. And after playing a couple of hours with the system, I have to admit that it feels very satisfying to lay down everything in order, and I don't remember any other city building games that offer such depth and such pleasure from simply placing down the building. The system offers great feedback and also allows you to make your own challenges. For example, you may want to build districts that are only medium class or high classes because you don't need the plebeians to deserve. Or you can go the other way, only plebeians in a district, so it's easier to get them happy. Whatever your decision is, there will always be a challenge and rewards at the end, which make it intriguing. You also have access to multiple resources. While you have access to wood, you have access to iron, to marble, and a lot of building material as well as, for example, linen or wine are luxury items that you'll be able to produce or trade, because the trade is an important facet of the game. You can either trade via the road, normal caravan trading, or you can trade through a port to foreign cities. This offers you a great flexibility because you're able to acquire the items you miss or that are too far away from your current outpost, or you can sell out the extra for a little bit more cash. We also have to keep in mind the defense of our city, of course. While we are allowed to build a well-armed and respectable force, we also have access to defensive features such as walls that will allow us to channel the enemy exactly where we want to meet them, where the terrain favors us. The military aspect of the game is not that deep. You basically build the troops and you'll sometimes use them to clear some barbarian entrenchment or to defend yourself against the enemy invading you. But outside of that, and outside of the very annoying missions of time defeating enemies, there's nothing much more to the game on the military aspect, and I find this side to be really lacking and more as a filler than anything else. Although now the game is 7, almost 8 years old, I have to grant them that the graphics are astonishing. I mean, literally even Rome 2 cannot stand up to this level of graphic fidelity. Everything looks good and nice. And if you start going around the city once it's built, you will see the plebeians, the esquire, the patrician going on to their life, their own duties, walking around, doing nothing, becoming crazy. Everything you can dream of, it will happen in the city. While these NPCs don't really have an effect on what's going on, unlike for example Caesar 3 where the NPC has to pass through, these NPC are only aesthetic, and it is very beautiful to see the bubbling cities with those little ants walking all over. But there is a major flaw to the game. You have to go through every mission to build up from scratch every time, and that gets really repetitive and annoying. You eventually find a good path to build up your city that you get stuck in the loop going over and over and over, always the same way to build your city because it is the most efficient one, and it gets tedious, truly tedious. I don't have any other word. But you know, for the price the game is today, it's still a 2009 release, I cannot really blame the gameplay on this level. I personally find it enjoyable in small parcel of times, because once you get involved in the game, after an hour or two, you really start to feel tired. But it's still interesting to come back sometime a few days or a few weeks later and keep playing, because the intuitive system of the building mechanism and the fighting system, it's a little bit like pedaling a bicycle. You don't lose it. You need some adjustment when you come back, but it's very easy to pick up anything. For example, if you are almost at the end and you quit playing for 2 weeks, if you come back in only a few minutes and you'll be set into track to go forward and go for the victory. And I got to admit, with the price you can find the game today in package with the DLC, there's no reason not to afford it if you enjoy city builder games. This is truly one extraordinary games from the genre, and I think it is really underrated. There has been a lot of bad reviews. I don't really understand why people hated it that much, but from what I've played, it's still very fun and enjoyable. And for example, while Caesar 3 you could get thousands of hundreds of hours, Child of the Nile is a little bit in the same vein as that. You eventually get tired, the graphics are in everything, gameplay is king, and there's one last thing I have to add on Grand Ages Rome. There's one thing that games have a really hard time beating, and it is time itself. And I gotta admit, for Grand Ages Rome, it doesn't feel a 7 or 8 years old game. It feels a fresh and current game, and it is very enjoyable to play, especially for the price you can afford. So hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If you did, make sure to drop a comment down below, and make sure to hit the subscribe button probably here somewhere, and see you next time.